What do you think was the first real breakthrough that you had as a teen that started you on your path, and how did you get there?
Gosh, there's so many. One of the first ones, I think, was probably just anchoring in when my mom and my dad, I had 4 different fathers. My mom was a powerful woman, so she kicked my 4th father out, whose name I carry, and he adopted me. And when he went out, she decided it wasn't his side, so she kicked me out too by chasing me out with a knife. And I wasn't worried she was going to stab me or anything, but I decided this is freedom, and I've got to find a way to make my life work. But I had no money. I had a 1960 Volkswagen I worked $40 a week as a janitor to buy and pay for, and so I had no car, I had no money, I had no anything. I went and slept in a person's laundry room, and then I decided I've got to figure out what to do, and I needed to feed my mind because I was so depressed, I was so overwhelmed, I'm missing my brother and sister and feeling just completely out of sorts. So I got on a bus and I traveled 14 miles, I remember, because I ended up running it one time, and I went to this bookstore and I bought this book called The Magic of Believing by Claudia Bristol. It's the first real book other than maybe Think and Grow Rich or Emerson's essays. And I started on this journey of saying every single day I'm going to feed my mind. I'm not going to hope good thoughts show up. I'm going to read biographies. I'm going to find out what makes people tick. I'm going to understand what makes me tick. And I wanted to read a book a day, but I didn't do that. I took a speed reading class and I read 700 books over 7 years. And they were all personal development, human development, psychology, physiology. And then what I try to do is take anything that I learned and apply it. And then when I applied it, I was 5'1" in my sophomore year in high school. I'm 6'7" now. I tell people the difference is personal growth. Really. But sincerely, I became Mr. Solution because I wanted to help everybody. So I was this little fat guy, and I couldn't lose weight, and I lost weight. And all my buddies are like, how'd you do that? And I said, well, here's what I did. And they lost weight, and then we all got girls. And that led to, as a young kid, that led to where, if you had a problem, I was Mr. Solution. Especially if you're a girl, I was more motivated to help you. So the breakthrough was really understanding the power of compressing decades into days. That if someone has spent decades of their life and they compress it into a book, and you can read it in an hour or a few days, you have such an advantage, because when you learn by your own experience, it's painful and it's slow. When you learn by other people's experience, everybody knows in the financial world, other people's money is leverage, right? Well, other people's experience is more powerful than other people's money, because you can have the money and lose it. But if you get the experience, you can change it all. So I think that was the beginning for me, and it set me on a lifelong path of hunger. I've never lost my hunger. You can't have a standard education and expect to have an extraordinary life. It's not going to happen. The one breakthrough for all leaders is constant, never-ending improvement. And that means educating yourself and continuing to develop even greater emotional mastery, because that's what affects whether you execute or not. The opportunity for self-education is there. We have to change our psychology from, I'm going to do what everybody else does, and I'm mad because it doesn't work anymore, to the reality is this is the greatest time to be alive if you're growing, you're learning, you're educating, and you're developing valuable skills. So instead of complaining, you got to say, where are the skill sets valued in the marketplace? And how do I work harder on myself than anything else? Because if I become more valuable, then I will be able to give more, do more, and change more. When I interviewed Warren Buffett, I asked the most important investment he ever made in his life. You know what he said it was? I was thinking all the companies he'd done, He said, Tony, go into Dale Carnegie. I said, what? He goes, because by developing myself, that's the most important investment. Those skill sets, learning how to persuade, learning how to speak, learning how to influence, all my ideas would have died on my lips if I hadn't been able to influence, and I learned it from that little course. Most valuable thing I ever did in my life, he said.
I want you to look at something right now. Think of some major goal you want, or maybe it's one you're already working on, and you have experienced a lot of setbacks, a lot of defeats. You've experienced a lot of disappointment. Maybe you've already given up. And maybe you just need a little fire, a little encouragement to get back in the game again. Here's what I want you to look at. There are winners, and there are losers, and there are people who have not discovered how to win. And all they need is some coaching. All they need is some help and assistance, just a little support. All they need is some insight, or a different strategy, a plan of action to make some adjustments that will open up the key to a whole new future for them, that will give them access to the unlimited power that they have within themselves. That's all that they need. So what I want you to do is think about something you want for you, that's real for you, that's important for you, that will give your life some special meaning and power. And I don't even want you to say, I can do that. I don't want you to assume that. See, 5 years ago when I started out in this area, I would not have been able to make the mental leap that I would be up to where I am right now. I don't want you to begin to just psych yourself out. No. I want you to be able to say something to yourself that will enable you to maintain a level of integrity with yourself. That when you say this, even when you face tremendous setbacks, it will be a benchmark to keep you in the game, to keep you moving forward and experimenting and readjusting your strategy and your plan of action, continuously looking for ways to win. So what is that something? When you got an idea you want to move on, you might not have the money, you might not have the education, you might not have the support or the resources you need. What is that something that can keep us going, that will enable us to act on our dream? What's one of those keys that will begin to help us to discover the secrets to our dream? Here's what I want you to repeat after me, please, with power and conviction. Say, it's possible. It's possible. That's all I want you to do when you look at your dream. Just say to yourself every day, it's possible. Just say that every day to yourself, it's possible. Because what does that do? See, it begins to change your belief system. See, the way in which we operate, ladies and gentlemen, it's a manifestation of what we believe, what's possible for us. Whatever you've done up to this point, all that it really is a duplication, it's a reproduction of what you believe subconsciously that you deserve and what's possible for your life.
There's no secret to success. There's a system to success. And no matter what organization you become a part of, the system works if you work it. If you don't work it, it won't work. But it works if you work it. And that's one 4-letter word that most people don't like. They're not willing to work. I have a friend who invited me to her brother's house to help him to get off drugs, to introduce him to a drug program that can help him. And I said, these people can help you, but you've got to be willing to do the work. And after we finished, he asked us to leave. And I'll never forget what she said. As we were going down the steps, she said, Les, I do apologize for wasting your time, but I realized when my brother knew that it would require work for him to get off drugs, that most people won't participate in their own rescue. And there are people who will be presented with an opportunity, who know that they could be laid off at any moment, who know that there's no such thing as job security, who know that them keeping their job has nothing to do with how good they are. And yet and still, they'll go to work and have knots in their stomachs, hoping when they open up an email that they have not been told this is your last day. They'll go to work hoping there's not a security guard standing by their desk with a box and say, empty your things in here and take them to the front door and escort them to the parking lot. They go in there hoping it doesn't happen. Why? Because they don't want to do the work. It's an aversion to most people's spirit.
You constantly remind yourself, after every defeat, after every setback, every time you get knocked down, I've got a saying, if life knocks you down, try and land on your back, because if you can look up, you can get up. See, a lot of people, because of failure, they stop believing. Let me share something with you. You will fail your way to success. Yes, 8 out of 10 millionaires have been financially bankrupt. You will fail your way to success. It doesn't matter how many times you fail. It doesn't matter how many times people tell you that you can't do it. It doesn't matter if you don't have a dime in the bank. You will fail your way to success.
Success is not an action, it's a way of life. If you want to accomplish great things, greatness must be reflected in everything that you do. Thus, regardless of what it is that you want to accomplish, the path to success must begin by adopting the right mindset. The first step to building a mindset for success is to define what it means to succeed. Setting goals for yourself makes it easier to come up with a plan of action to achieve your ambitions, and will motivate you to carry out that plan. It also gives you a standard against which to measure your progress and adjust your strategy. You should thus define your life or career goals and then think about what you need to do every day to achieve them. In addition, create short-term goals each day or week, making sure to align them with your broader aims and bigger goals. You can increase your productivity and move closer towards your goals just by managing what you are doing and when you are doing it. So why then do people choose to kill time? This is quite literally letting time pass you by instead of taking advantage of it. Killing time is a vicious cycle. What starts as a short break, browsing online, can turn into hours wasted. It feeds your lack of action and interrupts your workflow. When you find yourself in one of these situations, scrolling the internet aimlessly, stop for a second and think about what you aren't accomplishing. The more you procrastinate, the longer it will take for your task to really get done. Sometimes a task seems so daunting you don't want to get started. You come up with a random thing or things to do, wasting your time instead of knocking this one task out. I've been there too. In my book, Eat That Frog, I talk about eating your ugliest frog first. Tackle the hardest thing on your to-do list, or the thing that is hanging over your head, and get it done first. It takes discipline to accomplish the hardest task first, but it is a habit that will increase your levels of performance and productivity. Sometimes you have to ignore how you feel and just get started. Nobody wants to start a difficult task, but successful people put their heads down and just do it.
A big mistake that we make as entrepreneurs is we think that we've got to build everything ourselves. And what's super cool about business today is that there are channels where you can make money so that you don't have to do things that are outside your core expertise. You're a photographer. You're amazing at it. You're a networker. I can already tell. You're amazing at it. What you should never, ever do is spend time building a stock photography site, because that is not your core capability.
Okay.
But if you just focus on taking photos, which you love, and you upload the stuff that you're not going to monetize some other way to a stock photography site, as long as it's not other, it's not, as long as, you've got the rights to it and everything else, you can make money on that stuff all day long. And in fact, because so many people are creating content, the stock photography sites have exploded. It's not just Getty and Stocklist and some of the other ones that a ton of people use. There are tons of them out there. And so that's one thing that you should be doing.
Okay.
Where else do you want to grow your business?
I want to make sure I'm able to do that first step very well before I progress on to the next phase.
Okay.
I don't want to do so many different things that I'm not doing each one of them very well.
That's right. So anything where you're going to have to learn a new skill and somebody else has done it and you can outsource it, just like uploading to stock sites, that is, you don't want to make the mistake of having your attention go off the ball, which is creating a big library of photos and building something that you have no interest in building. You born, you're home, and then we go to kindergarten, and then you go to first grade, and then you go to second grade, and then you go to third grade, and then you go to fourth grade, and then you go to fifth grade, and then you go to middle school, and then you go to high school, and then there's the pressure to go to college or to a tech school or to do something else, and then you get your job, and then you're in your job, and then you meet somebody, and then you get married, and then you're supposed to buy the house, and then you're supposed to have the kids, and maybe you get the dog before the kids or after the kids, but then you have a second kid, and then you have the 0.5 kid, because most of us do 2.5 kids, and then we get the home equity line, and then we put the kitchen addition on, and then it's like our entire lives are set out in this linear progression as people chase the dream.
The next, yeah.
And particularly for those of us who are triggered by the fear of losing control, it's only natural to anchor your feeling of being in control to chasing the next thing. Mm-hmm. And so not only are we all socialized to believe that we're supposed to climb this ladder, we're supposed to do things in a linear progression, we're supposed to get to the next thing.
Yeah.
We've also been marketed to by society that we'll be happier if we have a new car. We'll be happier if we have a better dishwasher. We'll be happier if we have the skin lotion that's got the almond scent. And we're also psychologically anchoring our sense of control and our sense of happiness on achieving those things. And what you're experiencing is no different than what millions and millions and millions of us experience. And that's that emptiness that you feel when you buy the lotion. That smells like almond butter, and it doesn't make you happy. Or you get the promotion and you have an extra $100 in your paycheck after taxes, and it means you can buy the $14 Chardonnay, not the $10 Chardonnay, and it doesn't make you happy. Yeah. And the reason why is the I'll be happy when life, the chase the carrot life, the get to the next thing life. That form of happiness requires you to be driving, let's use the car analogy again, to be going 60 miles an hour at all times. And happiness is achieved through a different formula. Mm-hmm. It happens when you're sitting at the light and you're idle. When you're in the moment doing things that make you happy. And that's being with people that you care about. It's engaging in experiences that make you happy. And it's working on things that are important to you. You know what my dream was? My dream someday was to be a talk show host. And I was always embarrassed to admit it because it seemed so implausible. I mean, it seemed, how on earth does one even do that? And see, that's the thing about dreams, is that your dreams, they matter. And in order to achieve them, you're going to have to be able to have the courage to be brave enough to actually state what your dreams are. Because if you can't own them, you don't deserve them.